So this video is going to be about melody writing and think about tension and release. So you can see here I've got this table of a scale, so C major scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and we tend to give them Roman numerals for the kind of scale degrees. So this is the first note, this is the second, this is the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. And you might have noticed as well, some are uppercase and some are lowercase. So that denotes whether they tend to be major or minor chords. This is a major, that's a minor, minor, major, major, minor. But this one's actually minor with a flat 5, so it's sort of like a diminished triad. So they have these kind of fancy names that classical musicians call them: tonic, supertonic, median, subdominant, dominant, submedian, leading tone. You don't really need to, for this course, necessarily know the names, but it is useful to know how they function. So within a key, you tend to find that the C note in the key of C is quite stable, the E note is quite stable, and the G is quite stable. And what I mean by that is they don't want to move anywhere. They don't have a lot of tension where you're thinking, oh, we want to move that note somewhere else. So as example, if I play a C, doesn't want to move, even want to add an E, can just sit there, it's nice. Add the G, right? Doesn't feel like it needs to go anywhere. But whenever I add one of these other notes, like the D or the F or the A or the B, it feels like there's a bit of tension and it needs to resolve. And it tends to want to resolve by moving a certain way. So if I play the D over G, it wants to go, to be honest, either up or down. So if I play C major chord, and I play the D over it, yeah, kind of tension, resolve, or yeah, it likes either essentially, yeah. Whereas with the subdominant, the fourth degree, this wants to fall, right? So if I would just play, I can just about get this one on, yeah, so it wants to fall down. And even if I just play the root, yeah, so we tend to want to feel that that one falls. This one, the sixth degree as well, wants to fall down to this stable note, essentially. So all falling stable notes. So if I play just like this, and I go, yeah, sixth falls down to 5. Tension, resolve. And the seventh really wants to go up. If I play the roots, tension, resolve. So you already have in melodies inherent some sort of stability, where, you know, if you play over a C kind of root or C chord, if you play a G, it's going to sound stable, or an E or a C, it will sound stable. Won't want to go anywhere. It doesn't have any tension. The minute you play one of these yellow notes, it's going to have some tension, and then you can choose to resolve that, or, you know, move an A down to a G, or the B up to the C, or the D, either way. Or actually you could just choose not to resolve it and keep the tension, essentially, if you want. So this works the same in minor keys. You actually find that they sort of have the same direction they want to go, but they tend to be either sort of more or less strongly. And the strength, I think, really depends on if it's a semitone or a tone away. So this one here wants to move really strongly up, and it's a semitone up. Whereas this one does want to move down, but it's not so much, essentially. It doesn't feel like it really needs to kind of come down because it's a tone away. So you can think about that when you write melodies, that some notes will create stability and some notes will create tension that kind of want to move to one of these blue notes to resolve, essentially. Now, you guys have been working on a blues, so you might want to think about using the blues scale. So this is what it looks like in sort of the piano roll, and these are the notes that we're looking to play, essentially. So if I get up, and you could call the F sharp a G flat if you want. So it sounds a bit like this. And then obviously obviously we put the octave in. Yeah. Yeah, so that is the blues scale. What I'd recommend you use to write over your kind of blues. And the F sharp in the middle here is not in any of the chords really if we're playing a standard 12-bar blues, so it creates a lot of tension. So whenever you play that one, you're going to get tension essentially. And also we're playing major chords, and major chords have an E in, not an E flat. So this one as well creates a lot of tension that wants to be resolved when we kind of play that sort of thing. So if I'm playing like an E major chord, and I play, there it is, E flat. See, it's a lot of tension because you're getting that kind of horrible dissonance there. Yeah, but it wants to jump off it, doesn't it? Yeah, whereas that one doesn't want to jump anywhere really, but this one does. So you find that in terms of the blues scale, really, this is creating a lot of tension because it's over a major chord, so it's clashing. And the F sharp, again, isn't in any of the chords, and clashes because it's really close to the G, which is in the C chord. It's really close to the F if you move to the F chord, and stuff like that, and obviously the G chord. So it creates a lot of dissonance, that one, on all the chords. So the next thing is think about kind of question and answer melodies. So when we tend to phrase, in all music really, but particularly in blues, you tend to have this question, which just means a rising melody or phrase, and then it tends to be answered by a descending one. This is how we tend to talk. We'll ask a question, we go up, and then when we confirm the answer, we go down with our voice. So it comes from that really. And this is how you want to start trying to construct your melody. So you can see up here I've got bar 1, bar 2, bar 3, bar 4, essentially. And over the first 2 bars, you want to try and get some sort of ascending melody. It doesn't have to come, you see it goes down to a little bit here, it goes down and then up. It doesn't have to just go up, it can have a nice shape. The idea is it starts somewhere and it ends up higher. And then the same with this, is, you know, it can sort of come back up and flow, but generally starting high and we're ending low. And what sounds quite good is where you start and finish in roughly the same place. You don't finish on the same note, but it's in the same sort of area. It will sound quite finished if you do that. So try that out. Try and construct a 2-bar ascending kind of idea, and then a 2-bar descending one over a 4-bar phrase of a blues. And then how this builds together in terms of creating like an overall melodic structure for a blues is basically the first 4 bars, right? We've got our question and our answer. And then you got the next kind of 4 bars, bars 5 to 8, where the chords change. It goes, instead of just C all the time, it goes to F for 2 bars and then back to C. So the chords are different. But what you do is you copy your first melody from these first 4 bars and basically just paste it onto these. And like I said here, you might think it's going to be boring, but for a start, melodies need repetition to make them memorable. So you're building in repetition. And actually it will sound a little bit different because the chords are different that go underneath the melody. So if you're using the blues scale, which I recommend you use, right, write a melody that goes in the first 4 bars, goes up for 2 and then down for 2. Then just copy this whole thing and paste it into bars 5 to 8. And if you've got the chords working right, go into chord 4, so an F in this key for 2 bars and then back to C. It will sound more interesting because it's the same melody, but the harmony underneath changes. And this is a really common sort of songwriting technique, is to repeat a melody but change the chords underneath it. And then in the last 4 bars, where you've got some different chords again, basically create a new question and answer melody, but the same sort of thing, going up, coming down. You might want to change the length of it. You might have a really quick up and then a long down sort of thing. It's quite common in a blues. But, so basically in terms of the structure, first 4 bars, go up, go down, and then copy that into the next 4 bars. And then the last 4 bars of the 12-bar blues, create a new kind of question and answer phrase. And that's how it should be used, the blues scale. Sorted. And then one thing we'd like you to try, if you've got time, is adding modulation. So what I can do is, if I've got an instrument, for instance, let's just load something up. Let's get rid of that. So to find how I can modulate this instrument that I've got on here, for a start I need the inspector open, which is the I button here. So if I click the I button and open it, I've got whatever's here. So on a MIDI track you've got MIDI effects, you've got the EQ, and under it you've got something here. This is the actual plugin that's making the sound. So the XS24 on this, I've not loaded a sound on it, so let's load one to start with. I don't know. Let's go for a synth lead. Polyhook. That sounds like fun. So, right. So I've got this sound, and what I can look for is parameters to change. So cutoff is a really good one up here. Let's set that nice little drive. Resonance kind of creates the chirpiness to it, and things like attack and stuff like that I can have. So in this one I think I need to use envelope. There we go. So the sound comes in slowly now. Right, so let's say I've found some cool parameters to mess around with my melody. Imagine I programmed a melody. I can record this stuff in Logic by, do you see I've got this inspector screen open here, and down here I've got read. I'm going to change read to either touch or latch. Basically the difference is this: if I put it on touch, say if I take a parameter that's at 0, like this one, if I put it down at 0, if I use touch and I move it up, it'll record that, but when I let go, it'll spring back to 0. Whereas if I use latch, what's going to happen is I'll move this up, let go, and it will stay where I leave it. And write allows you to write over anything you've done, basically. So say if I wanted to do a cut-off sweep, right, through with this, I'm going to put it onto, let's say latch, because I want it to stay where I leave it. And then I'm going to basically just play the track. So let's play. And here's my note, and I'm going to move this. And did you see it stayed there, right? I need to record my note first. Actually, I'm going to record a note. Record a note, John. So you can hear it was actually doing it already, because I've already recorded it. I just not actually put a note in yet. So you can see it now. It's going to move on its own. I'm not moving it. Now the really important thing when you use this is to turn it back to read. Yeah, because anything else you touch on this thing or on this track, it's going to record those movements. Like if you move this up and down, if you move panning around, it records everything. Moving these. So always move it back to read when you're done. Else you end up like a ghost in the system and everything starts moving. So start experimenting with like moving things around. So this is the XS24. Other common things that you might have load up are synths. So like the retro synth essentially looks like this. And again, we can find this is cutoff and resonance here in this graph. And these are like your attack and stuff like that. So we can try moving those. Other common synths that you might get are Alchemy. And Alchemy has a whole section for you to make things easier. So down here, it's got common things to move. So we've got cutoff there, filter envelopes, delay, yeah, and stuff. So it's got things that it thinks we might want to move anyway, already down there and pre-selected for us. And another really common one is the ES2 synth that might pop up when you look at what sound, where your sound's actually coming from. So in there, you've got this middle section here, which is the fill section. So you've got cutoff, and you've got 2. So make sure if one doesn't work, try using the other one. We'll go through synths later in the course. Essentially. So you've got cutoff there, and you've got kind of attack and things down here in the envelopes. Just look for common terms like cutoff, attack, resonance, drive. Yeah. Anyway, so try and write a melody. that then uses some modulation essentially, and think about kind of notes that create tension and then how they release when they go to a stable note.